Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Thursday afternoon. On the show today, we will get into some Big 12 basketball, some more action happening last night, including Oklahoma State, who Texas will face this weekend. Talk a little bracketology and bubble watch after Texas win over Texas Tech. Where do they stand? What do they need to do to continue on their quest to make the tournament and then see where we go from there? I said that's our quest right now. Women's basketball, disappointing. Heartbreaking loss last night to Oklahoma. We'll talk a little bit about that. Some NBA talk as well. Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. Some NFL talk. The combine's going. Watching Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy running around the field, making Texas proud. Jalen Ford should be doing some stuff here shortly as well. He's been measured in. We'll talk a little bit about that and get into a little bit about the running back world. Some interesting conversations around the Cowboys and Tony Pollard. So we'll get into a little bit of that as well. And, of course, your text messages. 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. So whatever you guys want to talk about, we will get to and we will talk about on the show today. I know we don't have to yell about Rodney Terry, but if you so desire, we didn't get into it yesterday. I know my guys that were on there. We have some guys we disagree. Everybody was on the same page yesterday, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But we will get into that. And anything you want to talk Texas basketball, Texas football, you want to talk Texas baseball, Texas women's basketball, you want to talk some NFL, the combine happening right now, you want to talk some NBA, we're down for it here talking on the Sports Complex. We'll get into Patrick's Big Fat Poll. I think it's a fun one today. I think it's a good fun poll today. If you did not hear the news, we'll hit it here. We'll hit it to 5 o'clock. Just let everybody know. If you did not hear the news today, something I'm excited about, but it does mean change, that our man Aaron Hogan is going to be leaving the station. Today was his last day. He is moving on. That does mean there's going to be some shuffling happening. And what we talked about, and we had everybody in meetings, and what we ended up with is I'll be moving down to mornings and doing the broadcast with myself and Rob Babers, 6 to 10. Now, weekday mornings, we'll have the best of from 10 to 11, still keeping you till 11 o'clock. Then Jim Rome, Rich Eisen. But the Sports Complex last show will be tomorrow, as I am not going to be able to do 12-hour days as much as, I think young me, 20-year-old me, when you were like, oh, no, you'll be able to do this. No problem. I'll be on the radio all day. That is not the same case anymore. So we'll be moving that on. Now, that's not to say the afternoon slot will be empty forever. That is definitely not the goal. We always want to bring you as much as we can here at the Horn. And so there's conversations happening and stuff happening behind the scenes to see what will happen next. But as of tomorrow, Friday, will be the last Sports Complex in the afternoon. I'll be going in the mornings. I hope you guys join me in the morning. I know a lot of you already listen in the morning. Me and Rod have worked together several times. We worked together at a previous place. We worked together here doing, I joined him when he was still doing him and KD in the afternoons. Then we did the Ball Don't Lie, which was just really, really fun to do. So I'm super looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun to do. Not thrilled about 4 a.m. wake-up calls, but, this point of life, I'm not partying every night of the week anymore. It is it's a little different. 20 years ago, 4 a.m. was bedtime. And that's a reality, because I was working with bands and playing in clubs, and you were loading out at 2:30 to 3, and then get back to the hotel room. Like 4 a.m. was around the time you were going to bed. So it's a bit of a change, but, I'm hoping everybody joins us. We'll have a lot of fun and bring some of the stuff we've been doing here on in the mornings to go with Rod. Anytime you get to work with Rod, he's one of my favorite people on the planet. Always enjoy working with him, hanging out with him. He's a good dude. And, man, I don't know if there's anybody who covers football better than Rob Babers, and I don't know. I know that there's no one who covers Texas football better than Rob Babers. So, looking forward to that, but that does mean the end of the Sports Complex. To penultimate show, I believe I'm using that correctly, will be today. Tomorrow will be the final show of the Sports Complex. But I hope you guys jump in on the text line, and we have fun these last couple of days that we're doing it. I did want to make sure we did another one tomorrow, too, to hang out with you guys. So it'll be fun. You guys have been a ton of fun to hang out with. I've enjoyed the last 7 months of doing the show with you guys on the text line because you guys are the second host of the show with me. So we have been a lot of fun. But we'll keep it going. We'll keep rolling along for today and tomorrow. Hope you guys stick with me and stick with me going in the mornings because it'll be a lot of fun. I know a lot of you guys are already listening to the morning show, so we'll just keep it rolling, and we'll keep the horn will keep chugging right along, bringing you the best in Longhorn and sports coverage in Austin, Texas. I'll still believe that. I still believe that. All right, let's talk some NCAA basketball. So there's some action happened yesterday. Big 12. We're trying to keep up with it, and I've got the combine going right now. We've already seen T'Vondre Sweat. We've already seen Byron Murphy. Jalen Ford should be coming up in a little bit. If I see Jalen Ford at the corner of my eye, I'll give you updates as they're happening. But we'll get into more of that in the 5 o'clock because I think that's when we'll get closer to the linebackers coming out. We're still on D-line right now. Basketball last night, a couple of games happened. One that was an interesting outcome. I thought it would have been closer. Iowa State, number 8 Iowa State, handles their business against Oklahoma, 58-45. It was at Iowa State. Those road games have been tough, especially for Oklahoma. Had some trouble this year getting those wins on the road. Their offense, 45 points in a game this late in the season. You just don't want to see your offense really struggle that much. And the reality was Iowa State's offense struggled a ton too. Those 58 points were hard to get. OU ends up with 14 turnovers. They only hit 15 shots in the game. Iowa State hits 21 shots, but they shoot 17 more shots in the game than Oklahoma does. Between the rebounding, the turnovers, Iowa State's able to get the advantage there. But the big part for Oklahoma, for Iowa State, is Demarion Watson has a huge game. He goes 7 for 7 in the game. The only guy who shoots really high level. The starting 5, this is how big the difference is. Demarion Watson coming off the bench goes 7 for 7. The starting 5 for Iowa State went 7 for 38 for field goals in the game. So without Demarion Watson coming off the bench and really putting up really good numbers for Iowa State, it may have been a different game, but that was not a pretty game for either team's fan base to watch. But Iowa State gets the win, pushes Oklahoma back to where they're tied with Texas now in the standings. We'll get into why that's important here in a little bit. But it does push Oklahoma back again and pushes Texas closer to another. When we talk about that bracketology, and we'll get into this in a minute because I want to talk a little bit about that with you. All these games matter, everything in the Big 12, because when you start ranking out who's in the Big 12 and who's getting in, it matters a little bit what these records are going to be at the end of the Big 12 season. We also saw UCF pull kind of an upset over Oklahoma State, who's going to be Texas' opponent on Saturday. Oklahoma State had been playing a lot better. They had been, improved. They've been scoring a lot more points. They only put 71 up. They lose to UCF 77-71, and it's at home at Oklahoma State. Not a great game for Oklahoma State. John Michael Wright led the way for Oklahoma State with 22 points. We did see Brandon Garrison, who's one of their talented young freshmen, 6'11 freshman. He gets 3 blocks in the game, but does foul out. The big problem for Oklahoma State is they just did not have the toughness in this game. We're getting fouls instead of playing tough. They get out rebounded 40-27. And what we see in this game is what Texas has to do, which is if they're the more disciplined team in this, they know how to come out and play, not get in foul trouble, know to take the ball to the paint on Oklahoma State. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. But this is a very, very young Oklahoma State team that if you take it for granted you're going to get a win, they can definitely come and get you. UCF needs every win they can get at this point in the season to have any shot. They may be even trying to get NIT at this point. So for them, they came in there, did not have any issues taking care of their really young Oklahoma State. But an interesting point that, you saw a lot of fouls, a lot of free throws in that game. Oklahoma State was slowed down, though, to 71 points. You think if you're Texas, you'd like to put them a little bit lower than that, but around 70s where you're probably going to be trying to keep Oklahoma State and then be able to put some points up on them. I know Texas offense hasn't looked great recently, but that's kind of the mold to beat Oklahoma State because their offense, they've been a little bit more electric with these young guys, but the defense is not there and the discipline is not there, so you can get some turnovers and some rebounds against this Oklahoma State team. But let's talk a little bracketology, a little bubble watch. I've looked at the most recent bracketologies from your top guys. Jerry Palm has them as a 10 seed. Lenardi had them at a 10 seed before the Texas Tech game. So he may have them actually move up to a 9 seed or an 8 seed even, but I imagine a 9 or a 10 seed. That's around where they're sitting. But when we talk about that OU loss, why it's important is it pushes Texas up now to the number 8 seed in the Big 12. You'd really like to move into at least the 7 seed, the 6 seed, but you really like to move out of that 8-9 spot and not the low end. You want to win the games and move up. They're a game out of 5th place, really. So they're not that far from being able to move up in those poll and move up in the standings. You do have to go 2 out of 3 in your last 3. We've talked about this plenty of times. You do have an Oklahoma State game and an Oklahoma game at home. Both those are very winnable games. You have to win both of those. Because if you win both of those, you finish 500 in the Big 12 season. That's going to be where a lot of teams finish, and a lot of teams will finish below that. It's going to put you, depending on your head-to-heads and all the tiebreakers that come out in this, that won't be a terrible place to be 500 in the Big 12. The reason I say you don't necessarily want to be that 8-9 seed, because the 8-9 seed, the winner of that game will then go on to play the number 1 seed, which is looking to be Houston, who looks really good right now. And I think if you're Texas, you prefer to not play them. Even in Iowa State, who's a good team, if you play them, or at Kansas, who's a really good team, any of those teams you'd rather face in the Big 12 tournament, where I think you have a better shot than going up against Houston once again. Because if you're talking about, you got to get that win in the first place. We get that. That game 1, you got to get that win. To have any shot in that second game, Houston is kind of a buzzsaw right now, as well as they're playing. That just doesn't feel like a game that you necessarily want to take before you go into the tournament. There's some other teams that could be better matchups for this Texas team. So you don't want to get there. But, this is where, if you win these last 2 home games, you will finish at 500. You got the win at Texas Tech. You got the one road win we talked about you needed at the last 4. You got the one. It's the easiest one. You have a shot against a Baylor team. Baylor's going to take they have a really hard matchup against Kansas on Saturday. It's a Monday game, so they're going to be coming off of a really big matchup. Now, you can't look ahead and lose to Oklahoma State, but if you handle your business against Oklahoma State like you should, then you get a little break in between. You get that day on Sunday, and then on Monday you go against a Baylor team. You're going to be in Waco, so it'll be a difficult game for Texas to try and get the win, but it's possible. This is not an invulnerable Baylor team this season. So it looks to be an interesting matchup for Texas where they could see it. If you beat Baylor, if you win your last 4 games, you beat Texas Tech, then you go on the road and you can put a win streak of 4 together, then that Big 12 tournament doesn't matter as much. Now, you'll also move up in the polls and might be able to get up in that 5 spot. I don't think you're going to be able to get to 4. You need Baylor to really take a shot. Now, technically, if you beat Baylor and Kansas beat Baylor, you would also have 2 wins over Baylor and get the tiebreaker. There's a chance you can move up into that 4 spot. But that's a little bit more wishful thinking, I think. But you could be playing for that on Saturday. So there's a lot you're going to be watching for in the seeding. But I just know that 8-9 seed game is one that you'd kind of prefer to stay out of if you're Texas. But again, you got to handle your business first before we get there. I can talk about this because I'm not going to be playing on Saturday, because I'm not going to be playing on Monday, and I'm not going to be playing on the following Saturday. So I can talk about it because I won't be there. But for Texas players, they know they cannot look past Oklahoma State. I know they lost to UCF at home. That means they're going to be pissed off. They're going to want to come into Texas. Again, this is a game, a perfect example of a game for Oklahoma State where Texas doesn't feel like it's a rivalry game, like it doesn't feel like it's going to be a big matchup. But in all reality, this is going to be a big, big matchup for Oklahoma State where they feel they may be able to get in, some good work going into next season. A lot of freshmen on this team and the sophomores and young people that are going to be trying to build something going forward. And a win over Texas the last time they're going to be visiting Texas for a long time, I think would be very big for them. So this is for them a huge game. For Texas, it's big too. It just may not feel like it because you're supposed to be winning. So they got to take care of business. But looking at those numbers, that game at Baylor on Monday is going to be a big one as well. If you can get a win there, all of a sudden it shifts that you may be able to get 1 or 2 wins in the Big 12 tournament, or at least get that win in the first round, get buys into a Friday game, and make yourself a little bit easier, maybe playing an easier opponent, get a better seeding, and you have a shot to do something where you win a game or 2 in the Big 12 tournament, and all of a sudden you're locked in, you're feeling good going into the tournament. And again, we're all just hoping Max Abmas gets a shot back, because if that happens, look out. This team's playing a lot better now. If IT Horton and if all of a sudden they figure out on neutral courts how to shoot, then it's trouble. But I know that's very wishful thinking, so we won't go into that. Some negative stuff that did happen. Texas drops a game to Oklahoma last night, women's basketball, 71-70. It does pretty much lock up the conference regular season conference championship for Oklahoma. Gives Texas a little bit more venom and steam as they want to win the conference tournament now as they go in. I've also heard people are projecting them to drop to a 2 seed now. They were the number 3 team in the country. They were a number 1 seed in the women's tournament. They may drop down to a 2 seed now. Would you prefer them to stay in that 1 seed spot? That would be great for them. I don't know if they're going to be able to get back into it. Maybe if they win the conference tournament, that could get them a path back to it. But basically, in the game, Texas gets a score. There's a controversial traveling call, and it leaves for Oklahoma to get a shot. They miss it. Ball careens back out. Lexi Keys hits a 3. She'd missed 2 big threes earlier in the fourth quarter. Hits a big one there with 4 seconds left to put them up 71-70, and they hold on to get the win. Madison Booker has a good game for Texas again, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. But the reality was they held OU to 35% shooting. They went out there and did a good job. They did allow too many threes. They allowed 10 threes, but it was about 33% shooting, so it wasn't a great shooting performance. But they did allow a few too many threes. But I'll tell you this is what Vic Schaefer is going to be hounding on this team about as they go in to the Big 12 tournament. They were out-rebounded 30-47 in that game, and that's just not something that's going to sit well with Vic Schaefer, especially when you had a size advantage against them, and they were able to body you out and get those rebounds. 21 offensive rebounds for Oklahoma, and it helps their shooting threes. They knew which angles to take, but, man, that's a hard pill to swallow if you're Vic Schaefer and this women's basketball team to be 21 offensive rebounds for Oklahoma, giving them those second chance points that it should not have been as close as it was. They got their final game of the season this Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Mood. It is $10K for $10K. Tickets, I've not looked today. I don't know if there's still tickets. I'm hoping, hopefully they're not. But if you've not gotten a chance to buy tickets yet, $9, $15. That's how much the tickets are. Very cheap, especially if you want to take the family out. Go check out the Moody Center. Have a fun time. Watch this women's basketball team as they've been playing really well, fought all season long. It's senior night for them as well. Going to be a really fun time at the Moody Center. But if they get 10,000 people out at the game, 10,000 tickets, 10,000 people at the game, pack it out. Have a great crowd at the Moody Center. Vic Schaefer will donate $10,000 to the Neighborhood Longhorns Foundation. There's going to be some other companies that will match that. So can raise some money, help support this women's basketball team that has been playing really well all season. If you don't really watch them all season, that's fine. Go check them out. They play BYU this weekend. A great Saturday night activity for not too much money. Tickets now are very expensive for everything. $9 and for the general admission, $15 for reserved. Can't go wrong there for $10K in the women's basketball team. We'll hit NBA a little bit. We'll get the big fat poll. We'll get to the break. We'll get back to the text line, get to some text line questions as well. We're going to want to go play you some sound from Rod's rant today, talking about that NFL Players Association poll. I thought he had some good takes on that. We'll get to that as well as we keep rolling along here. But I do want to talk a little NBA. The Mavericks do get back on the winning edge last night, 136-125 against the Raptors. Luka Doncic, again, has another triple-double, just a really good game. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 16 assists. Kyrie Irving puts up another 29 points. But what you really like to see in this game is that P.J. Washington, we know he had that thought game winner against the Cavaliers, hits the shot with like 2 seconds left, hits a little layup on a pass from Luka Doncic, gets the game, what he thinks is the game winner. Max Strus, of course, beats it with the 59-footer. However, he does come out this game, plays well again, 23 points, 6 rebounds. He hits 5 threes in the game. P.J. Washington, if he starts to play better, starts to feel more comfortable in this offense, we know Kyrie Irving had been talking to him and working with him. Kyrie had said once he figures it out, once he feels comfortable, he's going to be a beast. They also have 10 blocks in this game for the Mavs, which is not a team that blocks a lot of shots, doesn't play great rim protecting defense. They're able to do that. They don't get killed in points in the paint. They allowed some, but they were putting up their own. And, they don't get killed in rebounds. So the addition of P.J. Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively coming back from injury, all seem to be going pretty well for them. We know that Derek Lively is still kind of dealing with some injuries and that nose injury and the mask and everything. But this is a team that it looks right now like those trade deadline deals are working well enough. I don't know if they're quite in that range where you're going to put them in that top 4 teams in the West right now, but they're definitely playing well enough that you don't want to meet them in a 7-game series, especially if P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively and those guys that are doing well in addition to the team this season start playing well. We also will see tonight the Rockets and Spurs in action tonight. The Rockets, Jalen Green is a game-time decision. A lot of guys for the Suns, a game-time decision. Nurkic, Gordon, and Bradley Beal, all game-time decisions. If those guys are out, a chance for the Rockets to go steal one in Phoenix, but are going to have to play better defense. I'm seeing a lot more stuff, and we saw that, Shaq said Alperen Sengun, and he's all for him, and there's a lot of guys. Alperen Sengun is playing really good offense right now. But that defense, they're going to have to figure some things out because they have a lot of guys who don't want to play a lot of defense. I know Ime Udoka is not going to last that for long. They did get Steven Adams to come in and he'll be there next season, but they may need to add some more pieces because Alperen Sengun playing great offensively but getting killed in the paint right now defensively. But a fun matchup for the Suns. They are not a team that necessarily is going to kill you inside. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. The Rockets have a good 3-point defense. So, if you get Gordon out and Nurkic is out and Bradley Beal is out, this is a definite possible win for the Rockets. Get another one on there and see if they can keep their hopes alive to maybe sneak in to that 10 spot and get into the play-in. The Spurs also in action tonight against the Thunder. This is the end of the rodeo road trip. They are back in San Antonio. Hopefully that gives them a little spark. They were definitely, you could tell, a little out of sorts the last few games. They've been on a 5-game losing streak. They've had a few losing streaks this season. But it is definitely, we've seen that they were starting to get things figured out, and then it just looked like the All-Star weekend, the break, and then you go back out on the road, that they were starting to get a little disoriented and upset and maybe not as focused on the future as they needed to be. Hopefully they'll be able to correct that. We'll see it tonight. This is a really, really good Thunder team. But anytime you get to see Wemby versus Chet, it's a good time. So that'll be a fun one to watch tonight too. Wemby versus Chet, another matchup of those two big, long men. And we'll see if we get any more crazy Wemby highlights that we keep getting. All right. Why don't we get to the big fat poll of the day? Then we can get to the text line. We can get to moving right along here on the Sports Complex. Let's hit that sounder.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. Text line's open. 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776. What is your favorite promotional day in sports history? I'll tell you why that. I'm asking that. It's because the Phillies have now said no more dollar hot dog nights. They had issues that dollar hot dog nights kept getting rowdier and rowdier. And then at some point, people started to throw hot dogs, and then it's picked up. And then last season, hot dogs were everywhere, and people were throwing them in the crowd. People were throwing them at the field, and it just got out of hand. They didn't like how crowded the concessions were, and people were not watching the game. People were trying to eat as many hot dogs as they could on dollar hot dog nights. So they have killed that promotion in Philly. Philly fans not happy about it, but they're Philly fans. They're not thrilled about a lot of things. But I want to ask you, what is your favorite promotional sports day? What is the one that you remember? And there's some historical ones you can mention, but there may be some in yours that you got like a bobblehead that you thought was awesome. I know that they did the Outcast bobbleheads at the Braves games last year. I thought that was awesome. If you have any of that, and I'll give you extra credit, if you have a promotional day that you want to pitch, and you want to pitch it for, a Texas team, or if you want to pitch it to CDC, if it's PC enough, if you can say something that I can say on the radio, I will give your pitch to CDC here on the airwaves. I'll give you that. If you got a pitch for a promotional day, promotional item, promotional giveaway, or promotional like that dollar hot dog day for Philly, let me know on the text line 512-447-3776. I thought it was hilarious. I saw some Philly fans complaining about it, and now it has come out as news that they've canceled it, and they had to answer questions about it where they were like, look, they were throwing them on the field. What do you want us to do? We can't do this. We can't trust our fans with things. So we can't give them things that are $1 because they're literally just going to spend $5 to throw 5 things. They have the disposable income of $5 to throw 5 hot dogs on the field. Let us know what you think on the text line. And if you have a promotional item that you in your history that you thought was really great, if you have one that you'd love to see, let me know on the text line, 512-447-3776. Take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to the text line. We'll also get to a little Raj rant here on a replay here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, hornfm.com. Back on the sports complex here on the Horn. Gotta let that Michael McDonald get in the little Michael McDonald cameo. Little featuring Michael McDonald in there. Had to let that one get in before I came back. I hope everybody's having a good Thursday afternoon. Text line's open 512-447-3776. If you want to join in, because Phillies have canceled hot dog night. What is your favorite promotional day? One that you've personally been to, one that you've seen happen, or one that you would like to see happen. If you got one to pitch to CDC, I'll pitch it here on the airwaves for you. We'll pitch CDC. I'll tell you, I think he should have done a flotation station figurine or bobblehead for Dylan DeSue after last year in the run and how much Dylan DeSue meant. I would have loved to get a flotation station bobblehead from Dylan DeSue doing that little shot there that he used to do. And when they called it, they named it the flotation station. Thought that would have been a nice one, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe it'll still happen. Maybe it'll still happen. He'll come back. Once he's in the NBA, he'll come back. We'll see what happens with that. But I'm still pitching that one. I still want to see that one. So let me know what you guys think. 512-447-3776. Let's go back and do a little replay. Rod's rant replay today. He was talking about that NFL Players Association poll. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. He had some good points talking about it. And, we see the Cowboys where they're at, the Texans where they're at, and man, Chiefs ownership not coming off looking very good in that poll. It's a little replay here for you from Rob Babers here on the Sports Complex.
All right, I want to go over some of the grades actually from the player survey about the teams and some of the really interesting nuggets and tidbits from it. For those who don't know, the NFL does a player survey and asks them anonymously about their teams and about the facilities and the nutritionist, the dietitian, the coach. They ask them about everything, and every team gets grades. And basically it's kind of the Yelp reviews of the NFL with each individual team. And there are some really interesting nuggets. So the Jaguars, you got to give the Jaguars a lot of credit because they had the biggest, I would say they had the biggest improvement from, I think they were ranked 28th in the overall survey like a year ago. They were 28th overall, so a disaster of a franchise from the players' perspective and their opinion, and they were 5th in this year's poll. That's a hell of a difference, and their ownership, I believe, got an A as well, almost a 10 out of 10. So the players were really, really complimentary of the Jaguars' ownership and the upgrades that they had made. The Bucs got an issue. The Bucs ranked 24th. And apparently one of the issues the Bucs had were shower bugs. Players described the locker room as unclean and smelly and said they regularly saw bugs in the showers. The team sauna is apparently broken, and the Bucs are also they're not a fan of like perks for travel or families or anything like that. Younger players on the team must have roommates on away trips unless they're willing to pay over $17.50 for their own room each season. Tampa also does not offer they do offer daycare on game days, but they charge $90 per child, which honestly daycare is just expensive no matter where I don't give a damn where you are. That's cheap considering what daycare costs. Daycare is always expensive. The Jaguars weren't the only team that made big improvements. The Cardinals apparently were heavily criticized last year because it was revealed that they were charging their players for meals, which they no longer do. Players say the food is still bad, but at least now it's free. They're not paying for bad food. They just get it for free. They upgraded their weight room and added a room for families on game days, which is important. And now they said now they offer 3 meals on Wednesdays when apparently they weren't offering 3 meals. When I was with Detroit Lions, you can eat 3 meals there. You can go there for breakfast. You can stay there for lunch, and then you can eat dinner there if you wanted to. They would give you dinner to go. With the Detroit Lions when I was there. So every obviously we're learning here, every organization is a little bit different. Nick Corte, who does a really good job breaking down the kind of salary cap stuff in the league, he actually he gave a GPA grade, a GPA correlation to the scores that the owners were given and the ownership grades. And he used a GPA scale, and he basically divided the ownership up into 2 groups. Groups of owners who had purchased their teams and groups of owners who inherited their teams. And he found out that the owners who purchased their team got a better overall grade. They averaged a 3.18 overall grade, like I said, GPA system, so they got a B. Where teams that were inherited, they got a 2.2, so they got a C grade. So if you go look at, as Corte found, if you look at 8 of the 9 highest graded owners, plus the Packers, all right, so the Packers, remember, they're a special situation. They're owned by the people, all bought their teams themselves. And the 4 worst graded owners all inherited their team. So maybe there's a trend going on there too. The Broncos, apparently it was revealed they got a car theft problem. Players feel like, it said here, players feel like they lack an individualized workout program from their strength coach, and they want that. They also reported that there were multiple cars stolen from the parking lot of the mandated team hotel during training camp, that's a problem. That's not good. That's your head of security, whoever that may be. The Raiders really hate Josh McDaniels. They do. There was all but 3 head coaches got at least a B- in their scores. So players love their coaches, right? They're supposed to. There was just one D. Now 19 of them got an A-. So 19 coaches got an A-. All but 3 head coaches got a B-. Josh McDaniels, D.
Ooh.
Yeah, they don't like Josh McDaniels. Apparently now the NFL Players Association are giving out F-, which means that you really suck. The F-, you're already getting an F, but an F-, didn't even know that existed. Oh, yes, it exists. So apparently here are all the F- grades that were handed out. The Bengals, Steelers, Patriots, and Commanders all got F- grades for their treatment of families. The Bengals, they got F- for their cafeteria food and their food overall. Damn, the Bengals got a lot of F- here. The Bengals also got an F- for nutrition and their dietitian. The Commanders got an F- for their locker room, because their locker room was disgusting, apparently. The Commanders got an F- for their training room, kind of important. The Falcons got an F- for their strength coaches, so they need to do a kind of man-in-the-mirror moment there. The Chiefs, only F- for ownership. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
That is wild for the most successful football team in the NFL currently that's on a dynastic run, that they would have the ownership voted to have an F. The Miami Dolphins, they are the elite class of this player survey because they got all A's for everything. Treatment of families, A-. That's 3rd best in the NFL. Food and cafeteria, A. That's 1st. Nutritionist and dietitian, A. That's 2nd. Locker room, A. 3rd. Training room, A. That's 1st. Training staff, A-, 1st. Weight room, A+, 1st. Strength coaches, A. That's 2nd. Team travel, A. That's 1st. Head coach, A. He was 8th. And the ownership got an A+. So all glowing remarks, and they were top 3 in every category. So if you're looking at who the elite organization is from a player perspective, it's the Miami Dolphins. See if that can translate to the field. But overall, the top 5 teams in the survey were Miami, Minnesota, Green Bay, Philadelphia, and Jacksonville. And the bottom 5 were Pittsburgh, this is overall, Pittsburgh, New England, the Chargers, Kansas City, and Washington. Think about that. The 2 teams that have had dynastic runs in the last 12 to 15 years, New England and Kansas City, they are at the bottom of the list when it comes to the players' surveys and player opinions about the organization. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have been the most consistent franchise and arguably the most buttoned up, right, in terms of, coaching hires and turnovers. They're with Mike Tomlin, they haven't had a losing record, and yet they are in the bottom 5 of this player poll survey, along with the Chargers, where they're going to bring in Jim Harbaugh, and Washington. That's no shock at all. So that's impressive. I mean, guys, the Kansas City Chiefs, when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, it really is amazing now that we're learning how cheap the ownership is. And guys, if you look at their player survey, they got a D+ in the treatment of their families, 18th. For the food in the cafeteria, it's a C-, 26th.
Ouch.
Nutritionist and dietitian, F, 31st. Locker room, F, that's 28th. Training room was a D, that's 31st. The training staff got an F, that's 32nd. They were the worst training staff, graded as the worst training staff by the players in all of the league. The weight room, 23rd. They got a C+. Strength coaches, C+, 27th. Team travel, a D, 27th. The head coach, A+. They got him first. So the head coach, Andy Reid, A+. You're damn right about that. Ownership, F-, 32nd. They were basically graded out as one of the worst franchises in every category, except for a head coach. We know quarterback is the best, defensive coordinator is the best, and damn near GM is probably the best too. So those are the 4 things you got to get right. Everything else in your franchise and organization can suck. And that's basically what's going on with Kansas City. And remember I told you earlier that Clark Hunt is looking for more money. Apparently there was there's a threat from the president of Chiefs at a news conference yesterday that threatened to leave the city after their lease expires if the county doesn't vote to pay a higher tax rate to raise hundreds of millions of dollars so the Hunt family can get a new stadium, essentially. They're asking basically for $1 billion in county money on the same day he was voted the worst owner in football, or maybe the shrewdest, whatever. That franchise value overall has gone from $2.5 billion in 2020 to $4.3 billion in 2023. The Hunt family paid $25,000 for it in 1960. You're talking about generational wealth. That's what you're talking about. So Kansas City got the quarterback right, and it seems like they don't have to really spend money on anything else because they don't even spend money on the roster. Remember, they didn't pay Tyreek Hill. They're deciding whether they want to pay Chris Jones. Just upped Andy Reid. They just upped Steve Spagnuolo. They got the most team-friendly deal, arguably, for a quarterback in the league, and the biggest discount in the NFL in Travis Kelce being paid like a tight end when he has number 1 wide receiver numbers. Guys, 5 teams in the NFL since 2019 have spent less cash than the Kansas City Chiefs. Only 5. They are notoriously a cheap franchise ran by a cheap billionaire, but they got quarterback right, they got head coach right, they got GM right, and they got DC right. Nothing else seems to matter for Kansas City. So anyway, there you go. That is shocking, but they are one of the worst graded franchise by this player survey in the league. And the Chargers, you talked about it, they got an F in terms of their family treatment. Ranked 27th overall. It says here the Chargers have a family room at the stadium, but only provide daycare off-site, which players said was inconvenient for them. They are also one of the few teams that charge for child care services, asking players to pay $75 for the first child, $50 for each additional child per family. Yeah. That's. I mean, I get it. Child care is expensive. Period. Everybody knows that. But NFL teams, a $17 billion annual business. Yeah, I'm gonna say they probably should provide complimentary child care. But do you want free child care? It's one of those things like, some things you want to pay for. You don't want cheap surgery. Hey, so I'd rather pay for my child care. It's good. They can pay for it because that would mean, hopefully, that the child care is better overall. That it's a better, more credible child care if you're paying for it. So let them pay for it. That's fine. But most of the NFL teams do not charge for child care. So there you go. That's the NFL, some of the nuggets from the NFL player survey. Some of the most successful franchises, though, are graded by the players as the most, as the most dysfunctional or the worst or the cheapest franchises. So maybe that doesn't necessarily always correlate to success on the field.
No question about it. Yeah, I mean, it's a $17 billion organization, and people
they make a lot of money.
Yeah,
a lot of money.
The players, I'm glad the NFLPA is doing this. It's only the second year they've done it. They started last year, this year, and it's kind of holding organizations accountable, and you kind of get to see, okay, how's my organization doing with these big picture things and taking care of people.
Exactly.
And like an organization like the Miami Dolphins that got resounding won almost every category. Mm-hmm. That's good for them in the free agent market, right? I mean,
it is good.
I mean, that speaks to players.
That's a good point. Yeah, it is.
If I got choices to go play, I mean, money's one thing in the contract, but man, that's a great organization. They take care of their people.
Players talk to one another, man.
Yeah.
They do.
That's a good thing.
Good stuff there on Rod Rant talking about some of the NFL Players Association. There's some interesting stuff in there. We talked about yesterday. I find it interesting. The Chiefs one is very interesting. It was interesting to see the Jaguars bump up a lot. That apparently Shahid Khan, who owns them, didn't know how bad it was. And I guess, they said some of these guys, they saw the Players Association poll. They're like, oh, well, we just didn't know, and that we can fix those things. And whoever was supposed to be in charge of that didn't get their job done. And, the player, people being happy, they weren't necessarily doing their job. So I think it's a positive thing for the league. Definitely positive for the players, but I think it's definitely positive for the league as well. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to the text line 512-447-3776. And we're asking you because Phillies have killed Dollar Hot Dog Night. They can't do it anymore because too many hot dogs being thrown in the crowd, being thrown in the field. They also said there was other issues, but they're not doing that. What was your favorite promotional day? Whether it was somebody that were at, something you heard about, a bobblehead or a giveaway, or a night that somebody did that. And if you have a promotional idea to pitch to CDC, one that I can say on the radio, I will pitch it to CDC. We want to get your views out there. Keep texting in 512-447-3776. Come right back. Get to the text line here on the Sports Complex in the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on Sports Complex here on a Thursday afternoon. We're still on D linemen and the combine. Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat already have done their drills, have done their 40, their measurables. They've already gone through that. Jalen Ford still coming a little bit later tonight. We'll get into that more in the 5 o'clock. We've already talked some basketball. We're going to get into some more football in the 5 o'clock, and the text line is open. What is your favorite promotional day? Something that you've been to, something you'd like to see happen? Send that text in right now. Let's get over to that text line. I have a feeling I know what some of these are going to be about. We'll get into it. We get Patrick, is your show going away since you're going to mornings with Rob B since Aaron is leaving? From Chris Woldert. I appreciate you texting in. And I know we have a lot of these. I'll try and read off what I can. I'll explain everything again when we get to 5 o'clock. But yes, the Sports Complex is going away. Last show will be tomorrow. Texter says, looking forward to the new show, buddy. Nate says, and make sure you proofread my morning text also. Appreciate that, Nate. Jamie the Great Go says, another beautiful Thursday in the books. Sad to hear you can leave it, but see tons of positive having you and Rod together in the morning. I hope you continue the text line to a certain degree on the morning show. My question for you today, who do you believe the starting QB will be for the Bears, Steelers, Commandos, Broncos, and Raiders? Well, that is a lot of them. It's Caleb Williams for all of them. Is that the easy answer? Or is it Justin Fields for all of them? We can go with, I think we'll know a lot more. I can tell you this. I think we'll know a lot more in 2 weeks, in a week and a half, 2 weeks. I think next week is when we'll start to see trades and when we'll start to see kind of more movement of where guys are going to go. Russell Wilson is going to be kind of a wild card because he's going to be, like kind of how Jimmy Garoppolo is maybe a later ad. But I think we'll know a little bit better when we see if there's a big trade. I think the Bears will until the Bears do what they're going to do, which we figure is going to be Caleb Williams. But I think if they get a deal from the Commanders, if they're able to convince the Commanders that Caleb Williams is the guy, it wouldn't surprise me if they went down and got a Drake May or got somebody who wanted to be there a little bit more than Caleb Williams seems to want to be there. But I think that's the first puzzle piece that has to land. As far as the Steelers, I mean, Kenny Pickett's probably the easy answer there. They may go out and sign somebody else, but I don't know. Maybe Gardner Minshew they bring in or somebody like that. But I don't know if they're going to make a big splash. And it feels like they'd have to get somebody who would be starting over Pickett or Mason Rudolph next season. Commanders is going to be whoever the Bears don't pick unless they trade up and get Caleb Williams. Broncos are another team that's going to be interesting, but they're going to be in the market. I'm sure they're going to look at Kirk Cousins, but they can't really afford to spend that much. My guess is the Broncos will try and bring in, Gardner Minshew's another name like that could go there, or they could bring in somebody. They're going to try and draft somebody a little bit later on and see if they get a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix Jr. and see maybe this guy can go out and start for us his rookie season because he's a little bit older guy and has a few more years under him, and he can be a stopgap until we get to who our next big quarterback is. But I maybe that for them and the Raiders. I think the Raiders do everything they can to trade up, but if they don't. And, I mean, this is really – I think them and the Falcons are going to be the ones going in for Justin Fields or going in for calling the Raiders or calling the Bears, I would say, is those two teams. That's off the top of my head is what I can go with. Text, now I get to text you in the mornings too and don't have to wait all day to piss you off. Appreciate that, Dave Ram. Appreciate that. You get my blood pressure up. The good news is I'll walk away at 10 a.m. in the morning. I'll walk away and I'll be sipping on a drink. Just enjoy it now. Pretend I won't be sipping. I'll have other work to do here. I will not, as much fun as it seems to be that I'd be off work at 10. I will not be off work at 10. So I'll keep working. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll keep going to these text messages. We'll reiterate the message we said at the beginning. We'll get into more NFL talk and a lot more on the text line. Love it when you guys are a part of the show. Keep those texts coming in, 512-447-3776 here on the text line. On the Sports Complex, on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour two here on the Sports Complex on a Thursday afternoon. We've talked some Texas basketball, some Big 12 basketball, bracketology, the bubble watch, all of that. What you need to be watching for in the final 3 games of the regular season. We talked a little bit about the disappointing loss of Texas women's basketball last night. Good fight for the Texas women's basketball team, but not the outcome they would have liked to see. Some NBA talk as well. Big fat poll today is out there. Because the Phillies have canceled Dollar Hot Dog Night. We're asking you, what is your favorite promotional day in sports history? Was it something that you went to? Was it something that that you saw happen that you thought was great? Was it something that you want to see happen? If you got something you want me to pitch to CDC, as long as I can say it on the radio, I'll pitch it to CDC for a promotional night. I told you mine. I would love to see the flotation station, Dylan to Sue. I'd love to see that one. I mean, maybe there could be – football seems harder to give away $100,000, but maybe for baseball, get something out there at Dish Falk for the craziest, best fans. And I mean, they're just great fans. I was going to try and put some sort of cursor on that, but no, it's just great fans. So the baseball team, or maybe the Moody Center, something like that. What would you like to see? Let me know on the text line, 512-447-3776. We'll get into a little bit of the running back conversation of one of the deepest running back free agent classes in a long time, projected to be. We'll get into a combine reports too. And then maybe if we have a little bit of time, we will get into the mock draft that I saw the other day that has some Longhorns listed in it. We'll try to get to all that, but I want to get to your text as well. If you did not hear the news this morning, did not hear the news at the 4 o'clock when we started the show, Aaron Hogan is leaving the Horn after 15 years. A great legacy he's left here, building up the Horn and sticking with us and doing everything. Loved it, nothing but love to Aaron Hogan as he goes on to his next adventure. But that does mean there's going to be some shifts and some changes here in the programming lineup. That does mean that I will be moving down in the mornings, which I'm super excited about, working with Rob Babers again. We've done Ball Don't Lie for a couple of years, and it was so much fun, and I've been able to work with him over the years several times. One of my favorite people on the planet. So just so excited to be able to do mornings with him. The Rodcast with Rod and myself will start up tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 to 10, you'll be able to hear us. And I'll tell you again, I don't know if there's anyone that can talk football any better than Rob Babers, and I know there's nobody who can talk Longhorn football better than Rob Babers. So I'm so excited to go in there, and while we'll bring what we do here, and I'm sure I've been to try and bring you guys from the text line. I hope you're there, and we'll be answering the text line as well. And Patrick's Big Fat Poll is going to be moving down there as well, so we'll get involved with you guys on the text line as we get in there. Doing the broadcast starting tomorrow morning. But that does mean, because I am not young enough to work 12-hour shifts every single day, wake up at 4 a.m. and then leave here at like 6:37. So the Sports Complex will be going away. Last show will be tomorrow. So starting next week, there will be no Sports Complex in the afternoons. I know that there's not going to be anybody on in the afternoons right now. It'll be national programming in the afternoons right now. From the meetings I've been in, the people we've talked about, and the ownership here and the management here, they really want to put something else on and want to bring you more local stuff. This is a locally owned company, which not a lot of the other big dogs around here can say, and not a lot of the other sports stations are locally run and really, want to care about you guys. So they're trying to put something together, and hopefully we'll have something in the afternoons again soon enough and bring have a morning and afternoon show. But I am super excited for the broadcast starting tomorrow morning. I hope you guys on the text line, I hope all you guys who are listening will join me in the morning. If you can, I hope you listen to the podcast. I hope you're part of it. If anybody wants to still bother me, I know Dave Ram, if you still want to bother me in the afternoons, feel free. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on X at It's Patrick Davis is where you can find me on all that. I'm on Threads too. I never have checked it really, but I believe I'm on there as It's Patrick Davis as well. So find me there if you want to yell at me on there as well. You feel free. I'll try to get better about answering on there, but it's been so much fun the last 7 months. I got another show tomorrow, so we'll do the sappy stuff tomorrow. There's not too much sappy stuff. I'm just moving the mornings. It's a happy move. I talk for 4 hours now instead of 2, and get to work with one of my favorite people. So it's a lot of good news, positive things coming up. but just letting you guys aware of that because I see some of you asking on the text line. So that'll hopefully we'll get it. If you want to keep asking, I'll keep giving you the same answer. Let's get back to that text line. Asking a big fat bowl today. I appreciate this from Average Joe. He says Astros buddies bat night at the Astrodome in the 80s. All right. A buddies bat night are they small bats? Are they still like this was at a point in time in the 80s where they weren't thinking, well, we're just giving weapons to children and this is going to end poorly, which in the 80s it did, but not in the way it would now because there wasn't social media to be like, hey, my kid got hit 15 times. Is it just a little bat or was it a real wooden bat or was it, a plush bat? I'm not sure. I mean, I probably went to games in the 80s there, but I was been really young. So, and I don't remember stuff when I was kind of young. So I don't have the best memory for that. So let me know, Average Joe, what type of bat was it? I'm curious to know what they were able to give out back then. Dexter says, why does it not surprise me Philly fans are doing bad things with wieners? Sorry, you probably can't say that on the air, but I couldn't resist. I can say wieners on the air. We're talking about hot dog wieners. That's the whole point of the story. I don't know what you could possibly think about when we're talking about Patrick's big fat poll about hot dog wieners. I don't know. These are all perfectly okay things to say. Nothing's wrong with any of these words. It's the English language. It's not our fault that they have chosen to use those words for other things as well. Not us. We're just two civilized people having a conversation on the text line. But no one is surprised that the Philly fans have realized that dollar projectiles are not a good idea. You literally are just saying, hey, for $1, would you like to, buy something that you couldn't have smuggled in? Sure. You could buy 6. You eat 1 and throw 5. That'll be perfect. Locksmith Ryan, I like this. UT should do a car emblem night. Instead of the Longhorn emblem everyone already has on their cars, it should be a unique emblem that can only be gotten by going to the game. I like that because you can make a ton. You can give them away for multiple years or you can give a special one each game, but I like that a lot. That is the cool idea. CDC, take note of that one. Car emblem, but a special car emblem for a game or for, and you can have one for football where it's that everybody, that's a lot, but maybe a basketball game. You got the 10K for 10K. I don't know if you're going to have a turnaround time, but for a women's basketball game, for a volleyball game, if you want to support your diehard Longhorn fans, that would be a cool way to do it is give them something like that. I like that idea, Locksmith Ryan. Dexter Chan says, PD, you're starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Yes, I am. I have 3 alarms set, Chan. I've set them at staggering times. They all have snooze. Basically, my alarms will be going off every 2 minutes if I don't wake up tomorrow morning. So I should be up and be there 6 a.m. tomorrow morning with Rod. It'll be the Rodcast. I believe all that stuff will be up on social media here shortly, so you can check it out there as well. But yes, we'll be coming up 6 a.m. with Rod. And yes, local guy Christopher Cross. Christopher Cross is a local guy who's playing. Great song, Ride Like the Wind. It's just a hilarious song from Christopher Cross. Got Michael McDonald on it. It just, it's like a desperado, like a song about a guy having to go to Mexico because he did something wrong. You're like, Chris, what did you do? Dexter says, clearly the survey went out during playoffs and Kadarius Toney was the only Chief to fill it out. Look, we all know Kadarius Toney didn't fill it out because he dropped it. We all know that he didn't fill out the Players Association. He dropped it. He hasn't been able to hold on to anything. We're aware of that. Dropped the pin, dropped the survey, dropped his promising career. He's one of the most vexing players in the NFL. That guy can get wide open, and then it doesn't matter. Texter, any idea if the baseball games this weekend will be televised? I do not know. I will look. Actually, I do know. I did look earlier today. I know they will be at least on YouTube. So if they're not on anywhere else, it's supposed to be on Astros.com and YouTube is where they're going to be airing the baseball games. I'm sorry, I forgot that I looked that up today. It's a lot going on. But yes, the baseball games should be available on YouTube because they're all part of Minute Maid Park and that they're not going to be on Space City, which is the new Astros channel. They'll just be they're apparently on Astros.com and YouTube is apparently where they will be. J-Dub says, Patrick didn't hear this morning. Where is Aaron Hogan going? We won't say where Aaron's going. You can follow him if you want to get that. I'll say I'm going to mornings. I will tell you that me and Ron will be doing mornings. But yes, that is he decided to take another opportunity is what Aaron decided to do. And we wish him the best. And I wish him the best. I don't say we. getting a line handed to me. No, I wish him the best. Aaron's been cool to me since we've been here. Been a supporter of mine. So, yeah, I definitely wish him the best. All right. Let's get – I'll read this one before we get there, before we get to the next one. It says – because I didn't read this yesterday. I thought I did, but I didn't. It's Tech can ingest a satchel of Richards. Yes. But I didn't read that yesterday. It's a good line. It's a good line, and they can. They definitely can. All right, keep those texts coming in. I want to talk a little bit about the Combine before we get and then I'll come back to the text line, and we'll keep coming back and forth, all right? But I appreciate you guys. You know, we try to get to everybody's text here on the show. I have not seen linebackers come up. I believe D-line are still doing drills in the Combine. So we have not seen Jaylan Ford. He has measured in at 6'2" and 3/8 and 240 for Jaylan Ford. Decent measurables. He's not an athletic freak, not a measurable freak. He is a mental freak of a really good guy. He had some interviews today talking about how he enjoyed being the quarterback on the defense, but we've not gotten his measurables of 40 time and drills and all that. What we did watch, which I was watching before the show, was Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat putting on a show at the Combine, and for two different kind of reasons. But Byron Murphy right now has everybody talking that he was projected to go around 15 to 18. And people are saying after this Combine, and I know it's early in the Combine and wherever else you go, but, you know, he right now, people are looking at him in a different light and saying this guy could be a top 10 pick. When you look at how he looks, physically how he is, he lost a few pounds. He came in over 6 foot, just over 6 foot, 297, but he has a 33-inch vertical, one of the best verticals of any defensive lineman. You know, he ran a 4.88. And a 4.79 on his 40 times. Like, he ran a really good 40 time as well. 4.94, I believe, and a 4.88. I believe. I wrote it down a minute ago, and I can't read my own writing. He had a 1.69 split. Had a very good 40 time, under 5 on the 40 time. All of his drills, you know, like if you look at how the drills are supposed to be done, they can use the Byron Murphy tapes on how to show you a perfect run on those tapes. Just looked amazing in the drills, looked amazing on the 40, looked amazing in his measurables, he's looked great in everything he's done. This is one of those things for Byron Murphy that you can sit around and say, you know, the Combine doesn't necessarily raise a lot of people's stats, especially in the first round, and raise their where their draft stock is. But for Byron Murphy, it sure is going to. People are just, now he looks like he's the guy. T'Vondre Sweat did not go away. He also is turning heads. Weighed in at 366. People were really wondering. He weighed in at 365 was his game weight, is what they said he was. He was listed at for Texas. And a lot of people did not believe that guy could move around at that weight at 365. He weighs in at 366. He didn't necessarily run the fastest for it. He ran a 5.27, but for someone who's close to 400 pounds, that's a pretty good run right there. His drills, he did things. He was able to move well. He did things with a lot of force, almost took the head off of one of the poor handlers of a dummy. So there was a lot to look for in what T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy did, because Byron Murphy was doing everything perfect. His footwork, everything looked great. And T'Vondre Sweat was, for a big man doing everything, it looked big. Everything looked special when he did it. And then the power and force that he was able to put into it as well just looked really amazing. So both those defensive linemen, we know at Texas what they can do, but really fun to see them step up. Linebackers look like they're going now. So we will see if they're about to go. So if I get a 40 time here in the next couple minutes, I will tell you what Jaylan Ford runs. I'm not sure exactly what his number is. It starts with a 1. I don't know if he's Jaylan Ford 1 or if he's, 11 or 12. I saw the 1 on the shirt, but he was wearing an overshirt on it, so I could not tell what his number was. I do want to talk a little bit about something else that I noticed. I was reading about today. I was starting to see that the number for Tony Pollard, where people are starting to project where Tony Pollard's number will lie in the salary cap and how much he'll make. We know he got paid over $10 million last season because they signed him on the franchise tag. And Cowboys fans are basically saying, well, around that number, he's that's way overpaying. He's not really an every down back. I don't know if we need to get him and re-sign him for that number. But when you start to look at this running back class and who's already in it, who could be in it, the draft class is not huge, so you're not going to be able to get necessarily a star back out of it unless you want to take one really early. If you wait, I don't know how many great backs are going to be there in the 3rd and 4th round for you. especially after that. But there's a lot of really good backs, so you might be able to keep Tony Pollard on less than you thought you were going to be able to. The number that's been floating around right now is about $4 million is what his valuation is at. And for Cowboys fans, if you look at that, and for Jerry Jones, especially, who loves his own, players, loves to keep guys in the family, and understands that, okay, now we can draft somebody, or now we can go, get somebody else, but we can have another guy and Tony Pollard can come back. Now, I think if you get it, you have to have a every down back and then have Tony Pollard as a change of pace, and he becomes one of the best change of pace running backs in the NFL. But if he's an every down back, he's just not that guy. Even though, the injury took more time for him to recover than we thought, that he only really played probably 6 or 7 games at what he said was full strength. So there is something to believe that he would be better next season as a whole, but I still don't think he's an every down back. We saw what he did, that his explosiveness is huge, but it's not enough to get in there. But I want to go through some of these names because there's 2 groups of names that I want to go through where I think Tony Pollard is going to be falling into. I think he's falling in about 5th or 6th in this list of free agents. So the market, if you say how many people are willing to spend big money on a running back, when we see the money not go up a ton last season, people were not willing to spend it all on running backs. And now you look at the lineups and you say out there that Saquon Barkley could be available, and Derrick Henry could be available, and Austin Eckler could be available. All these are free agents. Josh Jacobs is a free agent. DeAndre Swift, after he gets traded and has a breakout season, another great season with the Eagles, he's a free agent. Devin Singletary is a free agent. A.J. Dillon is a free agent. Gus Edwards is a free agent. And Tony Pollard is in that group of guys. So if you say he's 4th or 5th in that list, depending on where you put him, maybe you put him at 6, but you think that as a change of pace back, if you can get him around $4 million and you get him signed to a 3-year, $12 million deal, something to that effect, that's a pretty good deal for Tony Pollard. And now you can either draft a running back earlier on, and that's your main back, and Tony's going to be the other guy, and you can kind of work those 2 together early and run them later. You're not going to have to invest and try and go get your big guy in Saquon or Derrick Henry. But I think it's an interesting look that you could be able to get a guy that is undervalued a bit because of the injury, that he wasn't able to play at a high level early on. There's some other names that we're not currently free agents, but there's talk that any of these guys, and if one of these guys hits in, they become very much at the top of the board as well, that there could be cap cuts because some other teams may be looking at the free agent market and seeing what the price of running backs is now and want to get out from a running back contract that they didn't want to sign in the first place, that they're not thrilled about how much they're paying a running back, may want to get out of it, help their cap space a little bit, go get another running back, figure they can make it run by committee. But Nick Chubb in Cleveland is a guy that, after the injury, maybe they let him go and take him as a cap cut. Aaron Jones in Green Bay, great running back, but can they afford to keep him when they get the other pieces and other weapons? They want to go a cheaper route there. Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, they're up against the cap. They have to figure out some moves to make. You get a rookie last year in New Orleans, maybe this is time to move on from Kamara. Is Joe Mixon a guy in Cincinnati that, you're paying T. Higgins now, you're paying Jamar Chase, you're paying Joe Burrow. Can you afford to have a top-end running back there as well? So if you throw those names in, Tony Pollard drops down to 7th, 8th, 9th in the list of running backs, which means $3 to $4 million a year for Tony Pollard is not unbelievable. And I think that's something where the Cowboys get to fall into, where Jerry's happy, he gets to keep his guy, and you're able to get somebody that is an actual value. And I know it's not a value maybe in the way that running backs are now not getting paid anywhere. And Tony Pollard, you could say, could be a $2 million running back. I think the $2 million you're going to save on him to make him happier and have a really good change of pace back for the next few years is worth it. But you have to go still sign somebody else. But I thought it was an interesting piece where the Tony Pollard conversation in Dallas has been, well, he's done. You got to go get somebody better. He didn't have a good enough season. But the reality is, if he comes back cheap enough and you are now paying him $6-7 million less than you were paying him last season, well, now the value's fine, and now he's a great running back to have on your roster. You can afford to go get somebody else. You're not paying that Zeke dead cap money either. You can start to go spend some of that money now and go out and get somebody else, and maybe go after DeAndre Swift or an A.J. Dillon, who is kind of a different, a more powerful back. Maybe go after that, or Gus Edwards. I know the health hasn't been there. Or you do go for that Derrick Henry and you take a swing and say, all right, Derrick Henry, do you want to come to, the Cowboys, try and win a Super Bowl, and we'll give you, 6. And so instead of paying Tony Pollard 10 last year, you pay Pollard 4, you pay Derrick Henry 6, and that's your $10 million on a running back. But now you have a core of running backs, and you feel good. And maybe Deuce Vaughn can step up a little bit more next season. I know Rico Dowdle is a favorite of theirs, but I just think you have to step that game up if you want to compete in this market. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll go back to the text line, 512-447-3776. Let me know what you think about the running backs and if the Cowboys should think about keeping Pollard, if you got a number for him, or if you'd like to see Pollard go somewhere else. Let me know on the text line, 512-447-3776. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back, get back to the text line, maybe go behind the burnt orange curtain. We come back here on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn on a Thursday afternoon. Text line's open. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. Let's get back to that. Let me shut this down and get over here, and we'll get back to it. All right, let's get back to the text line. Random Texter 69 says, last summer was harsh. I prefer the local talent, so I had to learn to bounce around a bit. But now Hogan came in like Miley Cyrus wrecking ball and threw my usual listening day schedule out the window on both stations. Looking forward to you and Rob B, but who's going to remind us to keep our underwear clean daily from now on? My daughter loves that sign-off classic. I appreciate that. It's a dumb thing I said several years ago on a different show, and I've said it ever since. It's always funny in my head to say it, so I say it. But I appreciate that. I hope you listen in the morning. I'll try and still remind people in the morning to keep their underwear clean. Hopefully it's clean in the morning. I'm just trying to say in the afternoons. It seems dirtier in the afternoon than in the morning. You got to keep it. Let's get to Texter says, now I got to hear about RT in the morning too. Yes, you've got to hear about it in the morning too now. Yes. Alumni night with some promo on them. All right, I like alumni night for buying Longhorn fan. I like that. Get something and do something, get all the alumni back and give, I don't know what it would be, but I like that. I like the train of thought you're going on. CDC, you figure out, put your brain trust over there at UT. You got the smart people at UT. We can go on that one. Rye Guy from New Mexico says, this has been the weirdest February 29th ever. Aaron is leaving the morning show. The Sports Complex is going away. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I'll still be texting you as much as I can. Excited for the change and what the future holds for all of you guys. And wiener. Yes. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited to work with Rob Babers. I can't say it enough. He's one of my favorite people I've ever done radio with, just hang out with. He's just a great mind for sports and so much fun to talk sports with. So excited for that. The mornings is a change, but I'm looking forward to it a lot. Dick says, Mavs bobblehead night until they clearly repainted a bunch of old Sean Bradley bobbleheads that try and look like Dirk. Good luck with the new show. Please tell me they did that. Please tell me they actually did it, and they don't look anything alike in reality. But you have to put the long hair. I don't know. I guess you could do like really young Dirk. You could do the Sean Bradley haircut. But I feel like the Sean Bradley haircut was gone. Like Dirk started to grow the hair out, and the Sean Bradley, you can't do him anymore. But I hope they did that. That would be hilarious if they actually did that. Texter says, sorry, Patrick, I just turned the radio on. You'll be with Rod B in the mornings. Anyone else joining y'all other than Ty? Ty's gonna be part of the show. It'll be mostly me and Rod. Ty will still be a part of the station. He's still gonna be a part of the show. But that's who it's gonna be right now. It's gonna grow from there. All this has been pretty quick in the last couple weeks, so we're trying to make sure we put together the best product for you guys, and so that's where we're looking forward to. And says, I'm really excited to listen to you and Rob B on my 1 hour morning commute. It usually was only kept you for the last 30 minutes in the evening. Really enjoy listening to your wealth of sports knowledge, brother. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. And I can say in the afternoons, there is talks, the people, the management, the ownership, everyone's looking into stuff to see what they can do in the afternoons. This will be my last show. Tomorrow will be my last show in the afternoons, go into the mornings. I'll do both tomorrow. I'll do the morning show tomorrow and the afternoon. Then starting Monday will just be mornings. But anything's possible in the future. That in radio, and believe me, it's not just here. I know there's been a lot of change recently here, but I've been at other places, and there has been a lot of change at a lot of different places. So it is possible at any given point to have those changes. But I'm very, very excited for coming up tomorrow morning and starting to go with the Rodcast. We have some cool stuff planned. Got some fun segments. Should be a lot of fun. Daydrinker77 says, Little Towels commemorating Texas versus A&M final non-con meeting. I like, you know what, though? I think that we need, just a reminder. Can we make something that is commemorative, that we kind of take a dig at them? I don't know how to take a dig at them in that. If you got one, if we can take a dig in that, I appreciate that. Hey, Patrick, can you talk about the changes that are being made station? I missed it as you were just starting a few minutes ago. I hope you've caught it now. Aaron Hogan is going to be leaving the Horn. Today was his last day. Starting tomorrow, I'll be on in morning 6 to 10 with Rod Babers doing the Rodcast. It is going to be a lot of fun. And then tomorrow will be the last Sports Complex. That is the easy and quick version because I've said it a few times. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, but tomorrow morning 6 to 10, the Rodcast with Rod Babers and Patrick Davis will start. Looking forward to that a ton. And so do you do your show at the studio? I am at the studio. Where are RB going to do the show since they've been doing it at E's house for 6 months? We'll have it set up. Don't worry. We've got it all planned out. But I'll still be coming up here to the studio. And I believe me. I know we ran the promo. They've been taken out of the system. You know, there's a few jumps in this. There's a lot we're trying to do here. Sometimes we miss some things, and so they're taken out now. It's good. That was the last one. We won't hear another one. I'm telling you. Is this a leap year's day joke ahead of April Fool's joke? No, it is not. It is not a leap year's day joke. Also, by the way, happy leap day. Happy Tyrese Halliburton birthday. He's the youngest player in NBA history. Whatever he does, because he'll be the youngest because, by birthdays, he does the leap year birthday. So he's like 6 or 7, he's probably the youngest player to ever make an all-star game, like 4 or 5 years old, however old Tyrese Halliburton is. Dave Ram says also Rod's a kiss of death. Every person he's worked with has moved on in some way, shape, or form. That's not all a bad thing. That's not always a bad thing. You sometimes move on to better opportunities. Sometimes it's not. But Rod is not the kiss of death. That is not true. You can't. Look, I will defend Rod and Rodney Terry. Anyone whose name starts with Rod, Dave, we're going to have an issue with you talking about him. I'm not going to get mad. I know we're just joking around, Dave. I just thought that would be funny. And Fox says, Patrick, I get 4 hours with you now. Are you changing the name? Yes, it will be the Rodcast. The Rodcast will be the name of the show. That will be. And it's your birthday today. You're not saying how old? A happy birthday. You're a leap year birthday, man. Happy birthday to you. How'd you celebrate it when you were a kid? Did you get it every year on the 28th or did you March 1st? When did you normally celebrate? Or did your parents just say, screw you? You don't get it. Send that in. Text line's still open. We'll get back to it. I want to take you right now behind the Burnt Orange Curtain with Rod Babers. We'll go into this. We'll be doing the Burnt Orange Curtain tomorrow morning, too. Don't worry. It'll still be there tomorrow morning. But here's a little replay of Rod Babers from this morning, Burnt Orange Curtain, here on The Horn.
All right, so we know that T'Vondre Sweat impressed the media. We just heard him holding court with the media at the Combine, having a good time, joking around, and he's got a larger-than-life personality, fits his larger-than-life frame and stature. But I also read a tweet from Tony Pauline at the NFL Combine who said Byron Murphy, D-tackle from Texas, was the most physically impressive defender this morning during the NFL Combine media session. I'm told he already has 25 official meetings here in Indy, still hearing the Vikings at 11, potentially, is what Tony Pauline's throwing out there. He's a draft analyst. So, I mean, before he even works out, it looks like, Byron Murphy is rising up draft boards, and he might have impressed folks even more with his media availabilities there at the NFL Combine. He went into a lot of different topics. He was asked about a lot of different things. So we're going to play a couple of cuts of audio of Byron Murphy at the Combine. The first one, actually, for Longhorn fans, I'm sure you'll find this one interesting. Shout out to my man Corey Mose of KView. Here, Byron Murphy is asked who is going to be the next breakout defender for Texas football next season. Who should Texas fans be on the lookout for? Here is what Byron Murphy had to say.
I say on defense, I'm pretty sure y'all heard of him. He's a freshman. I say Anthony Hill. And I say when it's time for him, for him to come, and do this process, I feel like he's going to be a first-round guy. So just be on the lookout for him.
Calling his shot that Anthony Hill is going to be a first-round guy. As I said earlier, I think he can and should be a first-round pick, but the way they utilize him and weaponize him is going to be big. If they can move him around, showcase his ability to be a pass rusher off the edge, in the interior gaps, if they can show him his ability to drop back and be a good pass defender, they can show his ability to be someone that can be a run stuffer, move him around the formation, and show his versatility, I think that'll increase his value in draft stock. If they just keep him at off-ball linebacker most of the time, time. It's hard to just be drafted there as drafted first round as an off-ball linebacker. That is not a premium position, so the value drops. But when you turn someone into a hybrid chess piece, that can increase their draft stock because you can move them around. That's becoming positionless football is becoming more and more popular. If he can be there, Texas version of Michael Parsons, as Ty mentioned earlier. Okay, let's hear from Byron Murphy again. He also met with the Texans and was asked about playing potentially for the Texans. Here is Byron Murphy.
Byron, what would it mean to get drafted by the Houston Texans and play for a coach like DeMeco Ryans and that swarm mentality defense?
Man, it'll mean a lot, getting drafted by Houston, also just staying in Texas, I'm familiar with that because I'm from Texas, but it'll mean a lot playing for DeMeco Ryan, a young African-American coach, so it'll mean a lot to me.
Byron, what would it mean to get
DeMeco Ryans is from obviously the Shanahan coaching tree. We know that Shanahan values pressure over coverage, so usually they're drafting D linemen really high. I've seen Byron Murphy mocked to the Texans in several mock drafts. I don't know if he'll fall that far. If he does fall that far, the Texans will definitely take him. But from what I can gather, I don't see Byron Murphy falling that far to the Texans, even though they did meet with him to do their due diligence. The Cowboys also are a team that I'm sure if Byron Murphy dropped to them, that they would potentially consider drafting Byron Murphy too, even though they drafted a D tackle in the first round. He was asked about potentially going to the Dallas Cowboys. Here's what Byron Murphy had to say.
You said you haven't met with the Dallas Cowboys yet, but what would it mean to be a part of that organization?
It'll mean a lot because I'm from Dallas, so it'll be a blessing, to play back home, play for my home city. So it'll mean a lot for sure.
All right. Well, we know that I don't think he'll be there for the Cowboys or the Texans, honestly. But the way it's looking right now, he's going to be drafted somewhere in the teens and probably the higher teens. But he's a great athlete, and he's expected to show out at the combine and put on a show. Even Bruce Feldman said that he's been clocked at 18 miles per hour and had the best squat and the best power clean on the team. And he says he's the strongest guy on the team, whether you're talking about squat, bench, or if you're talking about power clean. So he's freaky in a lot of ways. There was even a Bruce Feldman article that said that he might be expected to run around a 4.8 or a 4.9 in the 40. And if he runs a 4.9 or a 4.8 at that at 300 some pounds, that will probably be the most impressive performance at the combine. Like I said, that is freakish at a whole nother level. That's kind of superhuman stuff. All right, he was also, speaking of being a great athlete, he was asked about who's a better athlete between some of the other guys coming out in the combine, J.T. Sanders, X-Man, and A.D. Mitchell. They also got into a basketball conversation here. It's pretty cool audio. Here is Byron Murphy.
Who's the best athlete, Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, or Jatavian Sanders?
Man, that's hard right there, but man, I'll probably say X.
Okay, thank you.
X,
I'm a big Xavier Worthy guy.
Well, when he's not covering him, so you got to take it for a grain of salt.
Byron might be able to cover him. He can do just about everything. All right, this might be a little easier. If you're playing basketball 2-on-2, who you? It's you four guys in the mix. Who you drafting first?
Man, I'm driving X off the rip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Over Adonai.
I never seen AD hoop, but
okay.
I know X.
Sometimes guys might be good football players, not very good basketball players.
But X for sure. I'm taking him first.
Thank you. Now we're making some movement, Rick. That's what I'm talking about. Even over Jatavian, who could be like a 4.
Oh yeah, I'll take him too. He's a good hooper too. But I'll take X though for sure.
Glowing endorsement for X-Man. He's not the only one. Remember, Mel Kiper's latest mock draft that came out earlier this week had Xavier Worthy in the first round. Ahead of A.D. Mitchell. It had him actually 32nd overall going to the Kansas City Chiefs. He probably would hate the facilities there, but he's going to love his playing experience if he ends up with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mel Kiper's latest mock draft also had Byron Murphy going number 13. So remember, Tony Pauline said the Vikings at 11 are going to be looking at him. Mel Kiper's got him going 13 to the Las Vegas Raiders. He ain't going to be there for the Texans and the Cowboys. Ain't no way.
Doesn't feel like it, right? I mean,
no way.
In a draft, as we've talked about, it's going to be dominated by the receivers, quarterbacks, and tackles, offensive tackles. I mean, as many as 4 quarterbacks could go early. Receivers could go 3 or 4 early. Brock Bowers is in that mix too.
Yep.
So if you consider Brock Bowers an offensive, weapon to go early,
yeah,
and the offensive tackles. I mean, defensive players aren't going to start coming off the board until the middle of the first round, Rod.
He's got the
and
first.
He has a chance to be the the top one.
Kuiper's got Verse, that DN
Jared Verse from Florida
State. He's got him as the first, but then he's got Murphy as the second defensive.
That's
player.
about right. I mean, middle of the first round, because if you're going to be slotted as the number one defensive tackle, you're only behind the pass rushers, and there really isn't there isn't a Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley in this draft.
No.
I mean, Kool-Aid McKinstry is kind of seen as maybe the best corner.
Terrion Arnold is a good one.
Yeah.
Cooper DeJean, the cornerback from Iowa.
The Great White Hope.
Yeah.
Also the kid from Toledo. There's a lot of thought that the kid from Toledo, the cornerback.
Yes, Mitchell is his name. Quinion Mitchell. They have him, or at least Mel Kiper has him going 17th overall.
Well, he's a guy to watch in the 40. They think he may be one of the fastest guys at the 40 time.
Yeah.
When we get to there, he's the kid from Toledo. So yeah, I mean, the point of that is, Byron Murphy has a chance to be one of the first couple of defensive players drafted because he's ranked that high. And I know we've had a lot of questions on the text line. Well, Tavondre Sweat won the Outland Trophy. Tavondre Sweat won all the awards. He was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. Why is Byron Murphy seen as the higher level prospect? I think you said it just a little bit ago. There's a concern of the weight, right? I mean,
yes.
If Tavondre's 365 now, what if he keeps growing? He's not much for you on third down. Byron Murphy's a 3-down player.
Yep.
They kind of project. There was a kid in the draft last year, Kalijah Cansey from Pittsburgh.
He's a good player.
Aaron Donald is out of Pittsburgh, right? They kind of see him as kind of that guy that just he's relentless. He's leverage. He's just a guy that never really has to leave the field and can impact the game on first down, second down, and third down.
Yeah, and the thing about Byron Murphy also, and his game, he's a best pass rushing interior D lineman coming out in this draft, and that's his elite ability. Is that he's a great pass rusher from the interior. He actually sets guys up with short area quickness. He's got a lot of repertoire of pass rushing moves. Tavondre Sweat is a run stuffing D tackle. And the question is whether he can play 3 downs and be a pass rushing presence
in a passing
on third
league.
down in a passing league. For Byron Murphy, it's a more valuable skill to be a pass rusher, and that's why he is considered a better prospect coming out. Both of those guys, in my opinion, are top 5 in both. It's just that Tavondre Sweat's the best run-stuffing interior D lineman in this draft. Byron Murphy is the best pass-rushing interior D lineman in this draft. And Byron Murphy might be top 5 as a run-stuffer and a pass rusher. And then maybe Tavondre Sweat is top 10 as a pass-rushing D tackle, but he's the best run-stuffing D tackle.
Just saw some video on NFL Network here this morning of the 3 Longhorns who are going to participate today, making their way into the to the stadium there.
Yep.
Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, and Jalen Ford.
Put on the show.
Headed to do their weigh-ins and measurements, and then bench press, and then off to the field for the field drills, which will begin today in Indianapolis. Good stuff right there. Yeah, that's, and you watched enough of the film, Rod. A lot of times in the Big 12, the opposing offenses were focused on, trying to double team Byron Murphy.
That's exactly right.
Because you have such a hard time with Byron. Well, that frees up Tavondre's single team. There are not many people in the Big 12 that can block Tavondre Sweat by themselves, right? And that was what made Texas so devastating, is you can't double team both of them.
Can't double team both.
You got to pick one. And obviously, as you heard from Byron Murphy, they complemented one another
very well.
But I think most in the Big 12 would say that Byron Murphy's the harder one to block individually because he does have so many moves, right?
Yeah.
It's not just raw power. Byron Murphy's quick. He gets underneath you. He's got the leverage game going, and just a relentless player. So those two together, outstanding. So we'll look to see how they do today. Good luck to those guys. Safe to say Jalen Ford needs a good day today?
Yeah, it would help for him. I don't expect him to have a great day because he's not a freak of an athlete. That's not his game. I mean, he's a student of the game, and he's a really good, I think, pass dropping and a pass coverage linebacker. That's the elite part of his game. So I think, he's going to be drafted in the middle rounds. I don't know if there's much he's going to do to increase his draft stock here at the Combine.
Good stuff there. A little behind the burnt orange curtain, talking some Combine as we keep rolling along here. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up, get to those finish the text line here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. All right, wrapping things up here on the Sports Complex on a Thursday. Appreciate all y'all on the text line. A couple of other people for the leap year birthday. What you do? What did you did to celebrate? You said closest to the weekend. Seems very practical. I don't know if I was a kid, I would have liked the practical answer. I would have said we're doing both. It's a minimum 2-day celebration. But I did that anyway, and I wasn't a leap year birthday. Not a shocker there. Text says, I remember hearing Ball Don't Lie, but in my opinion, the best shows were you and Rod Chop It Up. I appreciate it. I love Mike Harge, too. Harge is a friend of mine, still love him. So I'll say I enjoyed all the Ball Don't Lie. Texter says, what's going to happen in your morning show? Morning shows starting tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. The Rodcast with Rod Babers and Patrick Davis. I'm moving to mornings. Tomorrow will be the last Sports Complex, but I will be moving to mornings. I hope you guys join me. It is going to be a ton of fun. I still got some more work to do to get things ready, but I cannot wait for 6 a.m. to start, and me and Rod kicking off a new beginning here on the Horn. Rodcast with Rod Babers, Patrick Davis starts tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., 6 to 10. Is going to be a ton of fun. So I can't wait. I hope you guys heard that on the show. We'll do one more tomorrow. I'll be working double shift tomorrow, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I just couldn't let you go before the weekend. I had to yell some more about RT before we got out of here, too. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I'll see y'all tomorrow at 4 p.m. here on the Sports Complex. Until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for one more time on the Sports Complex.